Ahoy, mateys, and welcome to another episode of Shore Leave, where these two sailors are taking a chance to kick back, absorb the local color, and talk about some anime and Japan-related topics. I'm your host, Caliban.
I'm your co-host, Mikan Hana.
And we're here to talk about some Sailor Moon and anime-adjacent topics.
That's
and
right.
Back we are, and it's been a little while.
It has been a little while. I feel like I'm a little rusty.
January is the last time that we did a Shore Leave.
Is that right?
Yep.
That's a long time ago.
I will look it up now, but yeah, it's been a little while, but it's good to be back. How are you?
I'm good. Feeling good to be back. Get my sea legs used to the shore.
Right. Collect some barnacles from
Been out at sea for a long time, so
okay,
I got my sea legs.
That's good. All right, it's a good commitment to the bit. Yeah, no, it's fun to talk about some stuff that's, you know, Sailor Moon, but not Sailor Moon directly related.
Yes.
And we're returning back there. That's the monitor. You know, I don't get to do this stuff usually. I just make horse noises. And so I like also researching things and talking about things. And so I look forward to it for that reason. I hope our audience looks forward to some of the topics that we've got for them today. We actually, speaking of topics, we asked our Princess Patrons if they had any topics that they'd like us to touch on.
Yeah.
And Princess Patron Myth Reindeer asked us if we knew of any other places that Adzuki beans showed up in Japanese life. And oh boy.
Yeah?
You asked the wrong question. So many places.
Oh my goodness.
Like Adzuki beans, rice and porridge.
Yes.
Also,
I know what you're talking about.
Yokan, which is a jellied dessert made from anko paste. Anko itself is Adzuki beans mixed with sugar. Agar and sugar. There's also daifuku, which is rice cake stuffed with anko paste. Doriyaki, which is the pancake sandwich.
Yep.
A dessert sandwich made from 2 pancakes and anko paste. But the red beans in Japanese red beans and rice, or sekihan, are not Adzuki. They're actually cowpeas.
Okay, I'm very curious about the name.
But don't worry. Cowpeas?
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, cowpeas are just... All right.
What are cowpeas?
They're peas, and they come from cows. No, don't even worry about that, because there's also ondango.
Mm-hmm.
You got your dango, but this is like... hey, you don't have any bean paste on there. Bam! There it goes. There's also taiyaki, of course, the fish cake.
I love taiyaki.
Love those. I want to have one of those someday.
You will.
There's Adzuki bean curry. You do that?
Curry. Interesting.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you've already got, like, there's red bean curry. There's probably cowpea curry. You can also use them in noodle dishes.
Sure.
You can have them in popsicles.
Yeah.
And you can even have it on muffins. There's just so many freaking uses for Adzuki beans.
That's just crazy.
They're everywhere.
It looks, okay, that muffin, I bet it's matcha with Adzuki beans. It's probably actually pretty good, but it doesn't look very appetizing.
It looked, you know, there's a texture problem here.
Yeah.
You feel like, oh, a warm, delicious, sweet muffin, and then also like,
it's like,
some beans.
You know what it reminds me of?
Or are they, you know, what?
Like those cornbread corn muffins, and you take a big bite, and then there's corn in the middle, and it just comes out.
All right. Well, that's where we differ, because I'm fine with that.
I'm not okay with that. My best friend tells a story about that quite a lot, and that was a horrific experience for her.
Oh, well, she wouldn't like that. That's how you make it, like the cornbread or the corn muffins. You know, you get the can of cream corn in there, and that goes in the mix like that. And
well, if it's all mixed up, that's fine. It's just the cavity of corn kernels that I object to.
Well, wait till you have an Adzuki bean muffin with Adzuki beans inside.
There you go.
Anyway, that's an answer to your question, Myth Reindeer. There are so many more. but that is just a few. We'd like to say welcome to the people who are watching on Twitch and on YouTube. Yes. Thanks for joining us. And for our ongoing experiment, at this point, I don't think it's even an experiment, is it? We're just streaming these live episodes.
We are streaming.
And we'll be watching our chat, of course, throughout the show. So join in to the conversation. Let us know what you think about what's going on. If you haven't yet, why not take this chance to subscribe to us here on Twitch by hitting the heart and the bell icon. You get notified when we're live and broadcasting in the future, and it really does help out. And the same thing goes for YouTube. Give us a sub on YouTube if you haven't yet. That helps with our engagement. We all know the E word. Mm-hmm. When you get a chance, check out our About page here on Twitch or the channel page on YouTube. We've got links to other things that we do, more information, donation links too if you want to send us a twip on Twitch. That's probably what it is.
I think that's
right. A tip on Twitch or a super chat on YouTube. That would be so amazing. Before we get to our subject for this week, which I'm excited to talk about, I wanted to talk about what our listeners are talking about. And that is the question, what did you think about this episode? On every episode of our show on Spotify, if you go on your listening platform or on your phone and your app, you can find our episodes and answer the question, what do you think about this episode? We actually have a couple makeup answers from fans for episode 174, A School Storm. The transfer students are idols. Black Star Raven says, it might be the sleep deprivation, but Jersey Iron Mouse was the funniest thing I've heard in ages. Kind of knew going in she was going to be a Cal favorite. And thank you for your words, Black Star Raven. And so far, so good.
She is a lot like Mehmet. I'm reminded
of
Mehmet.
Maybe there's Mehmet's my senpai, and she reminds me of my senpai in that case. But at this point in the show, it's kind of hard to bring something new. I'm a jaded old podcaster at this point, but I do like Iron Mouse and her sense of style. And listener Fandom Casual says, Seiya is Wish Mamo. I can see that.
Wow.
As someone from Utah, the fact that the Japanese team matched BYU, it's not as impressive as it sounds. UHA teams in almost every sport are in the last 10 ranked or so in the U.S. Interesting.
I didn't know that.
What about the Jazz? I guess maybe they haven't been good for a while. Utah, jazz music, they go together.
Right.
Well, that's interesting. You could be right about that. It's not like them taking on, the Lakers in the 80s or something like that. But I think it's still probably for them gave them a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
We actually did it. We beat a foreign team.
Right.
People who, these corn-fed American boys. But, I suppose that you're right. Maybe BYU's not that great. Not the school.
Yeah, right.
Just their sports teams.
Right.
Thanks for your responses to that question. And listeners, if you want to, and viewers, if you want to answer the question, what did you think about this episode? You can do that by going to Spotify on your computer or on your app. I want to talk about news in the world of Sailor Moon. If we've got time, we do. And the only news I want to talk about is this tweet that I saw from Twitter, X user, Magical Girl Boss, at Magical Girl Boss. If you disagree with her, don't go after her. I'm just trying to credit her, assuming it's a her. And the tweet goes like this. I'm going to say it. The Sailor Moon 90s anime is not the feminist masterpiece many people think it is. Everyone uses these same 3 screenshots to prove it's the paragon of feminism. But when you watch the anime, it has some really outdated and sexist shit. And the screenshots are from the episode Goodbye Jadeite from season 1 of Sailor Moon. Old men think that they're better than women these days, says Ray. Ami says, that's right, scorning women is positively feudalistic. And Usagi, Sailor Moon, says, down with sexual discrimination. I've not read the replies.
Well,
speaking of replies,
yeah,
it looks like Magical Girl's doing all the replies. This is a thread, so
I
haven't covered the whole thread. But what do you think about what Magical Girl Boss is girl bossing about?
I think it's a hot take, personally.
I've seen a couple hot takes recently with Sailor Moon's return to the airwaves in Toonami. I think people are going, oh yeah, I've got opinions about Sailor Moon.
I remember Sailor Moon. Yeah. I think that yes, there are moments that we've talked about, in our show where it hasn't been great feminism. And
I haven't done the graph yet. I want to release a graph. I got to get into Excel or something about our ratings, because we have all our ratings recorded.
That's true.
We refer to our ratings of the episodes sometimes, but you could just go through, and anything that hit a 1, you could probably listen to that and go, that's probably, at least for Caliban, he was pissed about it being sexist or being, not feminist.
Yeah.
And I feel like I haven't done that very often.
I don't feel like I've done that very often either.
The entirety of Supers aside. I'm with you on that one, Magical Girl Boss.
Yeah. So I think, any time where they're obsessed about weddings or getting married, I kind of have been like, that's not great. I don't super love that. When they've focused on weight and losing weight or being overweight, don't love that either.
Yeah.
There was, besides the gym episode in season 1, which is very, very early, there was also the ballet episode in Supers that was basically saying that Sailor Moon was fat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think that's great either. But those are the things that I can think of off the top of my head. And I don't think that there's a whole lot else.
Yeah. That's true. Listener Fandom Casual is in the chat and says, I kind of missed the dumb bunny scale. That was a good indicator of feminism in the episode.
Oh.
And Fandom's got feminism in quotes. I don't know if dumb bunny means like we're doing a feminism. Hey girls, we're doing a feminism. And the reason that has disappeared is because she's not a dumb bunny anymore, at least not for the reasons that I was using that. I think that we have outgrown that scale.
Yeah.
So other than, the irony of a show being about pretty girls and yelling makeup, I don't know what Magical Girl Boss is talking about, other than just seeing the missteps that a show made in the 90s can do. I mean, we talk all the time on the show about how it very cleverly, I think, the villains that they face, the challenges that they face, are often framed in terms of, femininity.
Yep.
The monsters all have high heels and, and that sort of thing. And I think that they often meet those challenges. And if you think that a 15-year-old girl shouldn't, become a blubbering mess because her boyfriend, tells her he can't, be with her for secret reasons, then I mean, obviously that's going to disappoint you. I hate to talk about Star Trek, but half of my life is Star Trek. So many people look at episodes of Star Trek and go, that's so racist, so sexist. It's like, or that's homophobic. Is it racist, sexist, or homophobic? Or is that literally the issue that is being dealt with here?
Right.
When Trip tries to interfere with a race that has, 3 different genders, and one of those is, socially disadvantaged to the other 2, is that a sexist depiction, or are they trying to metaphorically show a society that is like some of the societies we have on Earth still? Right. And I think that I try not to talk about media literacy a lot, but I feel like the sort of lack of media literacy in some viewers leads to them being outraged. It's good that they're outraged. It means that their feelers are up for when things are bad. And there's a lot of people who watch uncritically and do not catch things like that. But I think it's important to know when there's a criticism happening on the part of the show, and when the show is just going, I'm dumb and fat and I like boys. And there's been a moment or two of that. But they fired those writers, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that one other thing that came to mind is maybe people are objecting to the monsters being overly sexy, because I mean, they don't always have a lot of clothes on, and they've got high heels, and there were times, was it S, where they all had a star somewhere on their body, and sometimes they were inappropriately placed. And we've seen in the first season where they go skiing, the monster has snowmen on her boobs, but it's kind of ridiculous too. I mean, I think you have to look at it and delve into it and see what were the inspirations for this,
again,
to have a better appreciation of it.
Right, but there's a difference between I used to like wrestling.
Sure.
I don't really watch wrestling anymore because it's run by terrible people, and it still is so regressive socially. But it's like the men are going to have the Intercontinental title match, and the women are going to have, they're going to wrestle in a big pumpkin pie that's a mud bath, and it's just like there's fun is fun, but when they're competing at completely different levels
Yeah.
and not having the same opportunities, that's not great.
Yeah.
And so the sort of sexy things, you could ask yourself, well, I mean, if this show's aimed at 10-year-olds, do we want snowman boobs stuck in a 10-year-old's face?
Right.
No, but I don't want to be a part of the kind of growing subsect of commenters, especially on Twitter, who are like, everything's so it's too sexy. It's too this. Why is there sexy in this? Why are adults having relationships and doing things that adults do? Like there's this prudishness, and it's not everybody, but I just wonder, what's behind that. I don't know. Maybe it's 10 years of Game of Thrones putting boobs in your face.
Well,
Here we are talking about boobs again, and what we wanted to talk about was Magical Girl Boss's statement. So. Not 100% agree with Magical Girl Boss, but I would say that is something that I want to see. I want to see what she's talking about in the show. So
yeah, I want to see more positive feminism in the show, and I do think that the show does a lot of really great jobs of like highlighting that. Yeah,
everybody on the internet, and part of it is like because you've got a little bit short amount of time, 280 characters or whatever to make your point. It's just it's made all of our discourse. So black and white,
Yep.
And so to make her statement, she has to say, and again, I should just say they. To make their statement, they have to say, it's not feminists. And it's like, well, can't it just be 75% feminist and 25% not living up to feminism?
Right.
That's kind of my opinion.
Yeah.
Fandom Casual says, split the difference, talk about rings of power. Yeah, okay. I don't want to do that.
I don't either.
Anyway, I want to talk about what you want to talk about, Mika. What subject do you have for us on this shore leave?
Yeah, I want to talk about over-tourism or banning tourists from sites.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So, due largely to rude behavior by foreigners, Japan has been banning tourists from certain places and activities. In the year and a half since Japan reopened its borders to travel following COVID-19 pandemic, crowds of foreign visitors have returned to Japan. More than 25 million travelers came to Japan in 2023, and nearly 5.5 million people visited in the first 2 months of 2024 alone.
Wow.
Going past figures of the same period in 2019 by 7%. So people are really coming to Japan in droves, and that's probably largely because the yen is so low right now, like the conversion rate for anybody in the US and in Europe, and I'm not sure about other countries how that rates, but
people people travel based on their interests, I suppose, or the type of scenery they want to see, or whatever deal's going on at Hobbit Travel or whatever.
Yeah,
but that's a new way to sort of travel, is to look at the money markets and go, oh, well, the currency's down here.
Yeah.
You want to go to, Lithuania or whatever? That's interesting.
I do want to say, too, that I think that a lot of what I'm going to talk about, people think of, when they think of over tourism, they think of white people from America.
Yeah.
But in reality, the people who are coming to Japan, I think number 1 is South Korea. 2 is China. 3, I believe, is Taiwan. And Hong Kong, I think, is 4th. And America is 5th.
Is it South Korea where Japanese people go to South Korea because the won is down versus the yen, and then they just buy like a bunch of stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, and go back? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Visitors to the Geisha district of Gion, one of Kyoto's most popular sightseeing spots, are, as of April 24, banned from entering the beautiful side streets. And then I have the first photo here. So there's a geisha or a maiko on her way to work. The area's main thoroughfare, Hanamikoji Street, will remain open to visitors. Previously, there was a ban on taking photos in certain areas, photo number 2.
Okay.
But not everyone, especially tourists, paid attention to it.
So this person has Oh, they're just taking a picture of the geisha.
Yeah, they are. But you can see that their stance and they're on their cell phone. There's actually a video of this, and she's like following the Maiko or the geiko. They're called geiko in Kyoto, the geisha. But she's like following her around, and she's trying to get around her, so she's like weaving in and out, but she can't get past this woman. And another woman shames her and is like, "You can't do that," she says in English.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there a... Everybody's talking on the internet about this. So I quit my job, so I was able to watch the Jenny Nicholson video, which is 4 hours long. That's the only way I could get it done.
Oh my God.
So everybody's talking about, the Star Wars hotel.
Oh, sure.
Is there like a Star Wars hotel equivalent kind of thing in Japan? If you go to Japan, you see traditional people, but is there anywhere where they pretend to like be back in the day? Do they have to be in character and stuff like that?
There's a Jidaigeki amusement park.
Okay.
And they shoot a lot of TV and movies there.
Oh, sure. Do they have storylines where you...
I don't know. That's a great question.
Okay, no, of course
I have no idea.
It's ridiculous.
So,
sorry, continue.
but yeah, not a lot of tourists paid attention to the photo ban, as you can see from our photo here.
Yeah.
The signs said no photography on private roads. And signs and fines were up to 10,000 yen, which is around $63.52 USD. For photography, this is like banned for photography without consent, and have failed to deter visitors determined to take the photos of the women. Gion, where geiko, which is what geisha again are called in Kyoto, and maiko, who are traditional entertainers, photo 3, can be spotted on their way to the evening tea house appointments, are regularly targeted by smartphone wielding visitors. So you can see there are a couple people here pointing their phones at this geiko as she is trying to get to her job, and doesn't want to be pestered.
We need to give these girls a tunnel.
Yeah, no
They
kidding.
can go under the street.
Yes. And then photo number 4. Some of whom ignore signs requesting that they don't take photos, keep their distance, and refrain from touching the women's kimonos. So people are actually touching the women's kimonos without their consent. There have also been complaints about people intruding on private property. So like there's a lot of traditional houses, and they're called machiya, in this area.
But it's just somebody's house.
It's just somebody's house.
Great.
So people are
Turn the sprinklers
standing. Yeah, they're standing on their stoop and like pointing at their fence.
Yeah.
And it's trespassing. In December of 2023, a council of Gion residents urged the city's government to take action against rowdy tourists, complaining that the neighborhood was, quote, not a theme park. And this is photo number 5. That's just showing the narrow streets. So this is an example of a street that tourists are banned from. And
okay.
So you can only go there if you're a local.
Right.
And as you can see, it's very small. Like it's about maybe a little over 6 feet wide.
Yeah. And
there were times where people would be trying to take pictures of geiko and maiko while they're walking in this really enclosed area. It's just, you can imagine it's very claustrophobic. The signage in prohibited areas says private road, do not enter, fine up to 10,000 yen. And again, that's $63.52.
Yeah.
So photo number 7. Okay, I'm a little ahead of myself.
Oh, okay.
So maybe go back one. I'm reminded of signage at cons. A costume is not consent.
Right.
Just because geiko and maiko are all dressed up in traditional garb and makeup, that doesn't mean that it's okay to take photos of them without their consent. They're not there to amuse you. When I went to Kyoto in 2008, I saw a geiko or maiko, and my friend who was with me, who was Japanese, asked if she would take a picture with me, and she said yes. So it's not hard to get consent. You just need to ask for it. And I wasn't taking a picture of her without her permission. So, yeah.
She's like...
Yeah, exactly. Like, I guess I'll do it. In early March 2024, authorities in Yamanashi Prefecture said they would start charging 2,000 yen or $12.70 USD to climb Mount Fuji, where hikers have been blamed for littering and risking their health and safety by attempting bullet ascents of the 3,776 meter or 12,388 foot mountain.
What's bullet ascents?
Yeah, so bullet ascents or bullet climbing is a growing issue, and it's a reference to underdressed, poorly prepared hikers who head straight to the summit without resting overnight in mountain huts.
I get it.
An approach that raises the risk of hypothermia and altitude sickness.
Yeah. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
All right, it was what it sounded like.
It is, yes. Mount Fuji is administrating a daily visitor cap of 4,000 people. You go to photo number 8 now. Sorry, you're already on it.
Oh, I was on 8. Okay.
For the opportunity to make the trek, the new rules will begin July 1st, 2024, when climbing season begins. So climbing season is very short for Mount Fuji. It's always in the summer because it's really cold there as you get higher up.
Right.
So it's like 2 months. It's like July and August.
Okay.
In recent years, more than 400,000 people have summited Mount Fuji in the 2 months in late summer when it's allowed.
Wow.
That's roughly 7,000 people a day, not counting the many more who hike to a lower elevation on the mountain. The largest base station, called Subaru, was 4 million visitors in the summer of 2023, for example. The result is human traffic jams and trash problems, both of which pose environmental concerns. There's another thing too, like in Japan, like it's not just on Mount Fuji, but their streets are pretty clean because people are pretty good about not littering, but you don't find a lot of trash cans all over because of the sarin gas attacks in the subway station. So you have to basically take your trash with you until you find a trash can.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, there's not going to be a trash can on Mount Fuji, at least not unless you're at a base camp. But that doesn't mean you should throw it on the ground. Additionally, in nearby town Fujikawa Guchiko, a black barrier is being installed to block the view of Mount Fuji as seen from a Lawson convenience store, the Japan Times reported. So this is photo number 9. So you can see right there's Fujisan in the background and there's Lawson's.
The most picturesque gas station in the world.
Yeah, exactly. This spot has become an all too popular location for snapping images of the famous mountain floating in the background behind the store. This all happened due to some viral TikTok posts. If you go to photo 10 now, there's a whole group of people, and then you see people in front of them taking pictures. So there's a line of tourists here. And consequently, authorities are reportedly erecting a net that will measure 8 feet high and 65 feet long. So it'll completely block Fujisan. Lots of tourists are in the street to get the best photographs. That's photo number 11. So that's saying don't run out into the street, essentially. And the fact that they have to put signs up like that is just kind of like, you all are adults. What's going on here? And they were weaving through traffic and causing chaos for the locals. That's photo number 12. So this is in the middle of the street. I don't know if you can see that, but kind of in the background, there's a sign for Lawson, and there's the curb right there, and the people in the foreground are in the street. So this is a common occurrence, and people are rushing to and from. There's people like parking their cars, or you're not supposed to park.
This is right in the train line too.
Yeah.
Because nobody's got they don't look. It looks like they don't live here.
Yes.
But they're in like casual pants and shoes. Nobody's like, oh, I'm gonna go hiking. I'm a tourist. I got my stuff. So they're just like, hey, want to take the train down to the thing. And
well, and I would like to say too that
these are local people. I'm sure there's ugly Americans in there somewhere, but
yeah, but a lot of it is local people, and they're they're talking about how this is over tourism, but there's
tourism.
That's true. If you're not from there, it's over tourism, I suppose. The restaurant Kadoya, which is an izakaya in Tokyo's Sumida City, put out a sign, quote, Japanese language only. So you go to photo 13. This is the last of my photos here. The restaurant owner tweeted about a situation in his restaurant. Quote, a white couple came into the store, and when I told them, if you don't understand Japanese, I can't help you, they asked in English, no English menu? And I answered them in Japanese, no. This is Japan. I also speak English when I go to an English country. Make an effort to speak Japanese in Japan. If that is not possible, bring an interpreter. So opinions were mixed on this on Twitter. Some were like, yeah, you should learn Japanese if you're coming to Japan. And others were like, this is a little harsh. And then the restaurant owner went to Twitter again. Quote, I don't want to be misunderstood, he said. Our restaurant doesn't refuse all foreigners. Those who can communicate in Japanese can come. However, we have a system where customers write their orders on paper, so it's difficult for people who don't understand the language or characters to order. That's why we put up a sign saying Japanese language only. If I had written Japanese only, that would be discriminatory, and I don't want that. It's a desperate measure to avoid unnecessary trouble.
Wow. Wow. If you're a fly, watch your butt. Because this guy's really cutting some fine points here.
Yeah.
Plus, so we have a restaurant. We had a restaurant in our city called The Bad Waitress.
Yes.
And basically you got a tear off from a pad piece of paper, and you just go, yeah, I want eggs. No Tabasco or whatever. And then you turn it in, and then they bring it to your table. There's no waitresses, basically. I mean, there was a wait staff, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Google Lens. Oh, sure, I love the sushi. What you're describing, sir, can be mitigated with current technology.
By and large.
And we don't have to talk at all. So why, because I can't speak Japanese, I can't come into your place.
Sometimes menus are handwritten.
You sound like a jerk.
Yeah, I know. Some menus are handwritten, and that gets kind of scary when you're trying to...
I don't want to. I hate hearing English, and I have sloppy handwriting. Come to my restaurant.
Well, buckle in because it gets worse.
Well, there's more?
There's more.
All right, let's get through it.
The restaurant has temporarily closed on the 21st of May due to, quote, mental and physical stress. In their closure message, the owner said, I don't know when we're opening again, but it'll be as a bar that doesn't depend on oh-so-precious white personages who can't read Japanese.
Oh, because it kind of seems like we figured out what it was in the end.
Yeah, so you are racist. Okay.
Right. No, we got it.
That's good to know.
All right. Believe people when they tell you in another language who they really are.
Yeah, exactly.
That's too bad.
It is too bad. Say, I noticed that we both have Sailor Moon mugs.
Oh, well.
Sailor Meow.
There you go.
Oh, wait. Yours is Star Trek. I thought you had the Sailor Moon mug. All right, so...
It's a magical adventure in space.
Yes. So that's what I had to say about over-tourism in Japan.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Fandom Casual says in the chat that this happens in Salt Lake City with the Latter-day Saints temple as well.
Oh, interesting.
So
people are like rushing there to go see it.
I could see that.
I could see that too.
Well, I wonder how. I guess if you're in New York, you're just like, don't get hit by a cab. But otherwise, we want this. The M&M store's over there, and so. Our city doesn't have enough tourists, I don't think, to have to worry about that. But who knows?
Yeah, could be a problem.
Well, thanks for that. That was really interesting.
You're welcome.
I'd like you to know that on May 15th of this year, 2024, video game publisher Ubisoft announced the 14th entry in their best-selling video game franchise, Assassin's Creed.
Oh my goodness.
The game will be titled Assassin's Creed Shadows and it would take place in late 16th century Japan in the Azuchi Momoyama period in the last years of the Sengoku era.
Nice.
Like many games in the series, players would be able to take control of two main characters, Naoe, a deadly female ninja, and Yasuke, a powerful samurai of African origin. Let's see. A woman and a black guy? You know that gamers are excited about that.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Oh no. Yeah, making gamers play a female character is always a hard sell, especially when they're, martial badasses. Tell me you didn't grow up playing Tomb Raider without telling me you didn't play Tomb Raider.
Yeah, really. But
the real sticking point was apparently the very idea of a black samurai. As always, the cries, emphasis on cry, the cries of historical inaccuracy and wokeness, DEI, RPG, CIA, XYZ, PDQ echoed across the internet. But as it turns out, ignorant people, they don't know very much. There was a black samurai, and he served the warlord Oda Nobunaga during the final years of his campaign to unite the warring states of Japan, and he was present when his lord was attacked and betrayed by one of his vassals, and Nobunaga was forced to commit seppuku.
Oh my gosh.
Real world events, which will undoubtedly be depicted in the Assassin's Creed game. Though, we should note that the historical veracity of Assassin's Creed is iffy sometimes, and intentionally so, as was pointed out by one of my favorite gaming YouTubers, Captain Astronaut. And here's an excerpt from his video on the subject.
Assassin's Creed in Italy, you play as Italian man. Assassin's Creed in Greece,
playing
you play as Greek man.
Assassin's
Creed in Caribbean, you play as a Welsh man. Assassin's Creed in Britain, you play as a Viking from Norway. Assassin's Creed in Turkey, you play as Italian, but those are all different. Everything in the past was artistic intent. Everything in the present is woke pandering. Assassin's Creed has always been a realistic, historically accurate, escapist fantasy. Historical accuracy and authenticity. Like when
Leonardo da Vinci would improve your weapons, or when George Washington activated some magic fruit, or when the goddess Minerva shows up after you fistfight the Pope as the final boss, or flying on a Pegasus in Valhalla, or when Arden from Final Fantasy 15 shows up and summons Bahamut in Egypt.
Yes. I should clarify that he is, he is playing the role of one of the Turbo Virgins who is complaining about this.
Yes, I gathered that.
So we get it. Based on historicity, not necessarily totally historical. And I will try not to quote his awesome Assassin's Creed Shadows video verbatim, because he's made the excellent point in the video that Assassin's Creed has already featured 3 African or African-American protagonists. There's Aveline de Grandpré from the PS Vita Assassin's Creed, which I can't remember the name of it right now. Adewale, who is in an Assassin's Creed game, and though they are slaves or children of slaves. And then, of course, there's Bayek of Siwa, who's in Assassin's Creed Origins, which is set in Egypt, which... I don't know where that is in America. But anyway, so if you don't like black people being all over the globe, don't give them free rides that they don't want. That's history, baby. They're everywhere. And before you think it's all greasy white boys who have a skewed version of history, here's the image accompanying the Yahoo Japan article that I read on the topic of Yasuke.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway,
great.
It's
really telling.
Yeah, it's a complicated issue. So let's do something that's really fun, and let's ignore idiots online and talk about the life of Yasuke, the Black Samurai.
Okay.
Obviously,
I got a comment from Captain
Pantsu.
Gapulin. Yes. Yeah, a ton of badly behaviored tourists. Them have been Chinese, which is a real shame, but does not help the complex tensions between our two countries. You could find no Australian signs in Hiroshima pretty commonly up until about a decade ago.
Interesting. They're like, no Australians. Huh. I suppose there's a lot of Australian tourism.
Yeah, because it's nearby.
Okay. Well, interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Let's talk about Yasuke. There's no pictures of him. Cameras hadn't been invented, I hate to say. So I'll be substituting screen caps from Netflix's excellent Yasuke series and some other sources. Before
Nice.
we begin the story of Yasuke, we have to talk about his boss, Oda Nobunaga, artist rendition. From the end of the 15th century to the end of the 16th century, Japan was at war. The Ashikaga shogunate was nominally in control of Japan, but in reality, local lords or daimyo ruled their fiefdoms unchallenged. Long story short, Nobunaga here decided that it would be maybe fun to rule over more than just his land of Nagoya, and he began a conquest which began with his own Oda clan and ended with him and his allies installing their own shogun and having control over most of the country.
Oh, wow.
Now, at this point, in about 1579, is where Yasuke enters the story. There isn't a lot of information or historical documents, like official ones, about Yasuke prior to his arrival in Japan. The main historical sources that we have for the existence of Yasuke are many. They come from the letters of a Jesuit missionary named Louis Foix, a Portuguese priest, Ota Gyuchi's Shincho Koki, a history of the life of Nobunaga, compiled by one of his vassals after his death, and there are other two contemporary sources from French Jesuit historians, Jean Cressel's Histoire de l'Église du Japon, or the History of the Church of Japan, and François Sollier's Histoire ecclésiastique des îles les royaumes du Japon,
Wow.
or the Ecclesiastical History of the Isles and Kingdoms of Japan. Yasuke was of African origin, and according to Cressay, was a servant brought from India by the Italian Jesuit missionary Alessandro Valignano.
Wow.
Though another source, Solier, says that he was probably Portuguese East African, which would be Mozambique.
Okay.
So we don't know if he came from Mozambique, was in India, because, as I'll tell you, the people that he worked for sort of moved around a lot.
Okay.
It's also said that
Interesting.
he might have been a Muslim by faith. He arrived in 1579 in the service of Alessandro Valignano, who had been appointed the inspector of the Jesuit missions in the Indies, which at that time meant East Africa, Southeast, and East Asia. They spent the first 2 years of their travels in Japan, mainly in Kyushu, but in 1581, Valignano decided to visit Kyoto, the capital, as an envoy and have an audience with Oda Nobunaga to secure the Jesuits' place in Japan before leaving and moving to other places in the east. And this is before the official policy of Sakoku, or lockdown, banned all foreigners from the country,
Sure.
which would be later in the 1630s, I believe. Some exceptions were true. The non-Banjin were allowed to be there. On March 27th, 1581, Valignano, together with Louis Foix, had an audience with Nobunaga, and Yasuke is said to have accompanied them as an attendant. And this is specifically from Fro's letters. Fra wrote that while in the capital, a melee broke out among the local townsfolk, who fought amongst themselves to catch a glimpse of Yasuke, breaking down the door of a Jesuit residence in the process.
Wow.
And it ended in a number of deaths and injuries among the Japanese.
It's like Geiko or Maiko.
He was a celebrity.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He was a celebrity, so people were clamoring to see him.
That's right. Fra wrote that Nobunaga longed to see a black man and summoned him. And when Yasuke appeared before Nobunaga, who had never seen a black man before, the warlord refused to believe that his skin color was natural and not an applied paint,
Seriously?
and made him remove his clothes from the belt upwards. Valignano describes how Nobunaga, thinking that he might have ink on his body, made him take off his clothes and wash his body. But the more he washed and scrubbed, the darker his skin became. Ota Gyuchi records in his Shincho Kochi that, quote, a black bozu means monk,
Okay.
or a bald-headed person, from the Christian country has arrived. He appears to be 26 or 27 years old. The blackness of his body is like that of a bull, and he is healthy and of fine physique. Moreover, he has the strength of more than 10 men. Okay.
Wow.
The,
Okay.
the Padres came with him and thanked Lord Nobunaga for his permission to proselytize. Nobunaga liked Yasuke and said, "Give me mine now." So Yasuke became attached to Nobunaga as an attendant. Gyuichi writes, a black man, quote, a black man was taken on as a vassal by Nobunaga-sama and received a stipend. His name was decided to be Yasuke. And Thomas Lockley, the author of African Samurai, The True Story of Yasuke, suggests that Nobunaga may have heard Valignano's group pronounce his name Isake, or Isaac, and then named him Yasuke.
Okay, I was going to ask what his actual name was.
We don't know, but these are some theories from this Lockley guy. He says that Nobunaga may have learnt that Yasuke was from the Yao people of northern Mozambique and then added Ske afterwards, which is a common male name at that time, making his name Yasuke.
Okay.
Those are just theories, though. He was given a short sword and a house. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
And he was sometimes carried Nobunaga-sama's sword in his armor and things like that.
Okay.
A Portuguese priest named Father Mexi wrote a letter in October of 1581 that said, quote, "The black man understood a little Japanese, and Nobunaga never tired of talking with him. And because he was strong and could do a few tricks, Nobunaga took great pleasure in protecting him and had him roam around the city of Kyoto with an attendant. Some people in the town thought that Nobunaga might make him a tono, or a lord."
Oh, interesting.
So after this, Yasuke went with Nobunaga after the warlord left Kyoto for Azuchi Castle in Omi province, which was one of his main bases, his main residences. Yasuke comes back into the historical record in 1582 when Matsudaira Itada, a vassal of Tokugawa Ieyasu, mentions in his diary that Yasuke accompanied Nobunaga on his inspection tour of the region after he had destroyed his longtime archenemy, the Takeda clan of Kai.
Wow.
And Itada states in his record, quote, "Nobunaga-sama was accompanied by a black man who was presented to him by the missionaries and to whom he gave a stipend. His body was black like ink, and he was 6 shaku 2 fun, or 182 cm, or around 6 feet tall."
Okay.
Which would be very tall at that time in Japan. And his name was said to be Yasuke. Right after that, Yasuke departed for Ichizen province with Fra and the other Christians, so it seems like that he had relative freedom of movement and may still have been involved with work with the church.
Okay.
He returned to Kyoto at the end of May 1582, but soon after, tragedy struck. On June 21st, 1582, Oda Nobunaga was betrayed and attacked by his senior vassal, Akechi Mitsuhide, in what's called the Honnoji incident at Honnoji Temple in Kyoto.
Oh, no.
Things are going pretty well for Nobunaga. He had a stranglehold on power across Japan, but he had sent his retainers and generals like Hashiba Hideyoshi and Tokugawa Ieyasu out to deal with the remaining resistance, which left him alone in the capital with only a small force to guard him. Mitsuhide took the opportunity to enact a coup, bringing 13,000 men to attack Kyoto, while Nobunaga had an estimated 150 men to defend him.
That's not a lot in the grand scheme of things.
No. Trapped in Honnoji Shrine, Nobunaga and his men did their best to defend themselves, but when they became overwhelmed and Nobunaga was wounded, he ordered his female attendants to flee and committed seppuku in the burning temple.
Oh, wow.
Yasuke was in Kyoto at the time, and it's not known if he was involved in the battle, but after Nobunaga's suicide, Yasuke was captured, but then later let go. And he went to Nijo Shingosho, the house of Nobunaga's heir nearby. The heir was Oda Nobutada, where Mitsuhide's men were also attacking, and he did help fight the rebel forces there.
Okay.
Fra wrote, quote, "A black man whom the visitor," he means Valignano, "sent to Nobunaga, went to the house of Nobunaga's son after his death and was fighting for quite a long time. When a vassal of Akechi approached him and said, 'Do not be afraid, give me that sword,' and so he gave him the sword. The vassal asked Akechi what should be done with the black man, and Akechi said, quote, 'A black slave is an animal and knows nothing, nor is he Japanese, so do not kill him and place him in the custody at the Cathedral of Padre in India.'"
Huh.
So Yasuke was sent back to the Nanbanji, or the foreigners area in Kyoto, and was treated by Jesuit missionaries. After that, he falls out of the historical record, which is understandable. His patron, Nobunaga, is dead, and he was nothing more than a curiosity to those who remained in power. Plus, things were going to get real hot for the next 20 years or so as the Sengoku period was coming to a close, and Tokugawa Ieyasu would unite the entire country under his banner. But we know for sure that Yasuke did live on, as Louis Foix wrote of him 5 months later in his letters, thanking God that he was still alive.
Wow.
This was, of course, a very tumultuous and dramatic time in Japanese history and has been the subject of many adaptations, specifically the book and now show Shogun, which begins in the year 1600, a little bit after these events, and features another character who became a curiosity to the rulers of Japan, John Blackthorne, who is based on the real historical figure William Adams, aka Anjin,
Right,
who
who we've talked about on the show.
Yep. An English sailor who shipwrecked in Japan and became a vassal to the shogun Tokugawa Ieyasu. So guys in charge of Japan go, oh, black guy, bring him in here. Oh, white guy, bring him in here. They're putting a whole Crayola box together, I guess.
I guess.
William Adams's life in Japan is well documented and depicted in art, but there are not. Do we have it? Yeah, there's a picture of him. There we go.
Oh, wow.
Good-looking guy.
You can totally.
This is a Japanese
get
artist's
his likeness.
interpretation of what he looked like.
He looks like kind of like a demon or an ogre.
I think that's probably on purpose.
Look at his eyebrows.
Yep, he's a hairy
That's
guy.
intense.
There are no confirmed works featuring Yasuke, so we don't really know what he looks like. There are a few contemporary pieces that is around that time in the early 17th century that it's theorized could depict him. There's this byobu, or Japanese folding screen, from 1605 titled Sumo Yurikuzu Byobu, and at the very center of the frame you'll see the two combatants, the two sumo fighting, and one of them has very dark skin. And so it's theorized that either the people sitting to the left could be Nobunaga, or possibly Nobunaga is the guy who is playing the referee in this sumo match.
Okay.
And there's also a Suzuri Bako, or a writing box from the 1590s. This is with the inkstone and everything,
Sure.
and your implements, that shows people in Portuguese European clothing. And the guy on the left is very dark complected, so they think that possibly this is Yasuke.
Huh.
And it's also interesting that he is not deferring, or genuflecting to the other person. He's in a position of power, so they say that this emphasizes the fact that he did have, an office and a station with Nobunaga.
Nice.
Interestingly, Yasuke may be the first black man in Japan, but he wasn't the last. There are other works of art for later years that depict dark-skinned servants attending Portuguese or European people, and records tell of Toyotomi Hideyoshi, this is the warlord in between Nobunaga and Tokugawa, rewarding South African people for their dancing. Most likely people brought by the Portuguese. There are, however, a bunch of modern-day movies and shows featuring Yasuke in a historical or fantastical context. Here's a few. In 1968, author Yoshio Kurusu and artist Genro Mita published a children's book about Yasuke titled Kurosuke. Yasuke inspired the 1971 satirical novel Kuronbo, which is by Shusaku Endo, the author of Silence, which was adapted into that Scorsese film. Yasuke appears in the 2008 novel Momoyama Beat Tribe as one of the main characters. This novel was made into a play in 2017. He's also featured in the manga series Nobunaga o Koroshito Otoko, The Man Who Killed Nobunaga. There's an ongoing time travel manga series called Nobunaga Concerto by Ayumi Ishii, which portrays Yasuke as a black baseball player from the present day. What? Did I mention that Nobunaga is also a famous and overused character in manga and anime?
No.
They've got good Nobunaga, bad Nobunaga, space Nobunaga, kid Nobunaga. He's a popular character. Yasuke was the inspiration for Takashi Okazaki's Afro Samurai series.
Oh, okay, sure.
In the video game Nioh, which the hero of which is a sort of samurai version of Anjin, Yasuke shows up in that. In 2017, Lionsgate announced plans for a live-action film about Yasuke titled Black Samurai, with Chadwick Boseman signed on to portray Yasuke and to be a co-producer. But of course, with his death, that project is on hold. MGM in 2019 announced their plans for a Yasuke film, but haven't heard anything about that. We've got the 2021 Netflix series Yasuke, which is kind of a reimagined there's like mecha in it, but it's set in the past, and there's magic and stuff like that. And Lakeith Stanfield is the voice of Yasuke in that.
Okay.
There's a 2021 video game, Samurai Warriors 5, the fifth Samurai Warriors in that series, where Yasuke is a playable character, voiced by Patty Ryan.
Okay.
A white guy.
Who's that? Okay.
Still doing that, huh?
Not great.
Why do we do that still?
I don't know.
I don't understand. And just recently, in 2024, in April, a new feature film titled Black Samurai, a spec script which is written by Blitz Bazuwale, was acquired by Warner Brothers. So maybe we'll get a movie in the future. We don't know.
That would be great.
And then, of course, the announcement of the Ubisoft game, Assassin's Creed Shadows, which caused some controversy, fans complaining that he was not a real samurai, and criticizing Ubisoft for creating a game set in Japan that didn't feature a Japanese character. Which, of course, watch the Captain Astronaut video. There is a Japanese main character. And also, we're not saying that he was a samurai in the typical sense, but, you know, he was a warrior. I don't know what you want from us here.
Yeah.
So that's the story of Yasuke. A very interesting idea. And I think it's an idea that, you know, people hold on to because it's like a cool idea.
It is a cool idea.
About this guy, you know, becoming a samurai. I mean, if Blackthorn can do it, why can't we have whatever the real historicity of his position? You know, we still want to like tell this cool story about this stranger in a strange land, you know, who's himself trying to figure out their customs, and yet is a big guy, strong warrior.
Well, and I think it's interesting too that he possibly was Muslim himself, but he went around with the Jesuit priests and everything.
Well, it might not have been his choice.
Okay.
Again, a lot of black people getting free rides places that they don't want back in the day.
Yeah, that's true.
But that all that could be in there. Let's tell that story. That's really interesting, I think.
So Captain Pantsu Goblin says, yeah, a lot of college kids from Australia who get drunk and rowdy.
Okay.
Party all the time.
All right. Well, you know, the Chinese should send their drunken rowdy people to Sydney then. Hang out around the Opera House. I don't know.
Yeah, all right.
Well, I think that is it for our show this week. Thanks so much for coming along with us, and thanks to our patrons for your support as well. And we couldn't do the show without you. I want to remind everybody that patron or no, we have lots more Sailor Noob content available on our Patreon at patreon.com/SailorNoob. If you want to support the show by becoming a patron, just go to patreon.com SailorNoob, or you can give us a tip at ko-fi.com/JustEnoughTrope. We'd love to have you either way. We've got a Discord, which is free to join. Link in the show notes, so do that. Don't forget to subscribe here on Twitch before you go. And I also stream video games here on Twitch. We also have videos, with Star Trek show and different stuff. So check that out here. That's it for Shortly this week. We'll be back next month with an all-new episode of Sailor Noob. Mika, what's that episode going to be?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me get to my notes. So that is going to be episode number 176. Faita no Shotai, Shogeki no Chohenshin in Japanese. The English translation, Fighter's Secret Identity, the Shocking Super Transformation.
Huh. Okay. And the German title, Musical Stars.
They always have to be different.
That doesn't tell us anything.
Maybe it does.
Germans, what's up? Come on. They're like, the musical stars. They sing the musical? I don't understand the problem.
Yeah, right.
Hey, we got a new episode of Sailor Cinema on the Patreon where we talk about The Taste of Tea. Oh my God.
So good.
Such a good film. I can't spoil anything, but it's also kind of unspoilable. There's a little girl and a big version of a girl. Don't worry about it, but it's a really good film, and we love talking about it. If you're a Princess Level patron or you're interested in becoming a Princess Level patron and hearing us talk about movies like Shin Kamen Rider, The Taste of Tea, the works of Satoshi Kon, and other great films of Japanese cinema, check that out at patreon.com/Sailor Noob. I also wanted to mention, this is a little premature because we haven't actually published it yet on all the services, but we have a brand new podcast on the network, a podcast called Mona Lisa Overpod. It's a podcast about all things cyberpunk. We're hacking the data nodes, and we're getting the wires in the head, and we're you know what it is.
That's right.
Mika?
You're surfing the net.
We're using, we got Dermatrodes, and we're breaking the ice.
We got max headroom.
We're cracking the D-base.
and
Yeah, we got max headroom.
There's electric lights everywhere. There's green numbers.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. We're in Cyberpunk.
Green numbers, yes. There's rain coming down.
Yeah,
Cyber
exactly.
rain. It's hosted by myself and author Lyda Morehouse, who is a cyberpunk and fantasy author. And we're talking about everything that we just mentioned. It's soon available on all your favorite services. And we've got a channel set up for that in the Discord too. So if you're a fan of futuristic science fiction or cyberpunk, join the Discord channel. Follow us on social media over at Mona Lisa Overpod and enjoy the show. I wanted to mention too that we have a merch store that we never talk about, but we have one.
Yeah.
It's currently on sale. We got t-shirts for Sailor Noob. $13, justenoughtrope.threadless.com. Check that out. Put clothes on your body. Put our clothes on your body. That's it for us for this week. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week when we make up for another episode of Sailor Noob.
Bye.
She's going to wave goodbye.
Yep, I'm going to.